Okay, today we are going to look at using cursor within Flutterflow, and we are going to combine the best of both worlds, I think, where we're going to be able to use all the features of Flutterflow as we normally would, but create custom widgets using this rather fantastic AI system called Cursor. Now, a cursor is a little bit like VS Code, if you've got used to that, and we're going to run across the installation of that and how we do that. But just in case we think that's going to break the bank here, certainly to get going, we can use this hobby plan over here. That will give you everything that you need, certainly for 2 weeks, and I believe probably it'll give you everything that you need going well beyond that too. So without further ado, let's just have a little quick run through of how it compares with VS Code and how it's going to look and how we're going to use it. Just to give you an idea of where we're going with this tutorial, so that you don't have to wait until the very end to see the beauty of vibe coding a custom widget within Flutterflow. I've got this up and running. This will be where we get to at the end of the video, as I say, and we're running a test version of the custom widget, which has been written, apart from the boilerplate, entirely in Cursor. Now, the beauty of it here is I've got running here the test version of that. I'm going to put that to one side, and I'm going to create a prompt over here, and I'm going to change it in real time. Okay, we're going to use this prompt here. Currently, the image in the carousel is square. Make the aspect ratio 1:1. Ensure that the parameter gets the height of the widget is not fixed to 320 pixels. But uses the parameter supplied to the widget. So we can see that 320 pixels is held here, and we can see we've got an aspect ratio of 9:16. We supply that code over here, and we're going to go and have a look at the live version of the Okay, now we've not got the aspect ratio correct, but you can see that we have made some alterations, so we may have to vibe code that a little bit more. If we like what we see, we can accept that, and we can come around again, and I think I'm going to change that until we get that to be square. But the idea here is in vibe coding is that you can make the changes real time, and you can see the results of those in real time on the test, and that's where we're heading to in this tutorial. Diving in, you can see that I have already begun on creating a custom widget using Cursor here. You can see that this is Cursor, not VS Code, by the icon up here. Otherwise, you're going to think that perhaps this is looking very, very similar indeed. What we have here going on the left-hand side is clearly the code that we've loaded in from Flutterflow, and we're going to have a look at that in a minute, and the code, of course, that we've created. And over here on the right-hand side, you can see that I'm in full flow at the moment of creating code using Cursor. We can see that I have had some cause problems that we're going to address as we go along. So this is taking a snapshot, if you like, of how the project looked in about 10 or 15 minutes time when we've actually constructed it. You can have a look here, a few other things that are worth pointing out. Over on the right hand side we have the agent that we ask the questions. Here we've got a few more commands that we can use. I don't typically use many things from here, but it's worth going and taking a look to see what Cursor has to offer there. But almost everything happens over on the right hand side, where we have something called an agent. We can either ask the agent questions, in which it will, in this case, cause, in which case it'll give us an answer, perhaps how we can fix a problem, or more important, that we can use it actually to write the code for us. Now you can see that built into it, it's got a lot of the newest and best LLMs here. So, you know, that they are good for different things here. Some of them, for instance, accept images, others don't. I typically leave it on the auto mode, where it'll select the right model for what you might actually need to use it for. There's also a max mode, which basically means that you can allow the model to do a more detailed research on your coding or your issue, which will cost you a little bit more in the way of tokens. So I tend to leave that off. Here is the first of two custom widgets that we're going to be utilizing today, demonstrating today. This is grabbed from pub.dev. If you don't know that, that's where we can get a massive resource of different coding applications there. And as you can see, it is basically a carousel where you can select at the bottom the images to be displayed at the top. We have a little snack bar going on indicating which index is in view. The images out of interest are being generated randomly, which we're going to come to. I'm basically going to start with a bog standard home page. I'm going to add some containers to that. That's where we're going to be putting the custom code. Nothing particularly difficult here, so I think I'm going to scoot forward on that. This is the first place that we're going to go and grab our pub.dev package from. It is called Infinite Carousel, and you can see that I've landed here on a page where we've got some of the configuration details that we're going to need to put initially into Flutterflow. This is going to tell Cursor basically how the component, the widget, is going to look. It is not really doing any of the coding yet. That's going to be done by Cursor, and we're going to come to that. So coming over to Flutterflow and continuing with that train of thought, we've created here a widget, a custom widget called Infinite Carousel. Okay, and what I am going to do is I am on the right hand side over here going to add all of those parameters that we just saw in the pub.dev package over there. I'm going to explain why, but basically it's to get the structure of this particular custom widget into Flutterflow so that when Cursor takes over, it understands where it's going. The only one that's really missing, though, is here, the images. So I've put that in first. It's a list of images, which basically is going to be the images that are going to be displayed there. So that is actually, as you can see, it's a list of images. It's going to take the image path, and it is a list. Otherwise to that, we're going to be adding all the other parameters one by one over here. So initially, this is going to be the parameters that control exactly the behavior of our widget. So the first one here, for instance, is center. That was the one that basically decides that the image is going to scoot across to, it's going to put into focus the central image on that. And we're going to run through them all. The anchor, the double on that one is to do with the image ratios. All of these are explained actually in the pub.dev package, but we're just putting them in verbatim at the moment. And as I say, we're going to demonstrate how we're going to use Flutterflow to create the basic layout for this custom widget before Cursor takes over. So let's just finish filling all of those out. So there we go. We've got the velocity factor. We've got whether it's going to loop or not. We've got the axis direction, whether that's vertical or horizontal. All of the parameters that this widget's going to need. So we just need to slot over to pub.dev infinite carousel, and we need to just take this infinite carousel version over here. We can use this button to copy it, and we can go back into Flutterflow, and we need to paste that in over here. And then, and this is the most important step, we use the automatic generation of the template button, the top right green one over here, in order to be able to create the layout that is going to be understood now by Carousel. And there you go, it's beautifully added into the project here, the layout that we want based on all of those parameters that we've just put in. So that saves us a lot of time. It hasn't done any of the coding, of course, that we need to come to, but it has now basically done the layout that we want. And we can go over now and start doing the magic within Cursor. The next thing that we need to do is we need to open this project in Cursor and not in VS Code, in Cursor specifically. And there are actually several ways of doing that. I'm going to show you a couple of the easiest ones anyway. I think the most easy one is probably to go up to the developer options over here and download the code. Once you've downloaded that code, that'll download into a zip file. Unzip that file to somewhere that you can access on your local drive and open in Cursor from there. So for instance, you could extract, in my case, the zip file to Android Studio projects over here, and then from there open the project here. I would left click and open in Terminal, and then I would type cursor dot to open in Cursor. Lo and behold, we now have the project within Cursor. Okay, so let's take a quick look around what we have within Cursor now. You can see that we've got our custom code there, and there's the infinite carousel code that we have put in. It's got no It's only the code that we set up, so it's only the boilerplate, if you like, there. You can see that automatically that we are getting Flutter pub get, which is the way of beginning to compile the application. And we can see we've got an issue here that I find comes up quite often. It actually gives you the solution there. So we are just going to add that Flutter pub add collection to it to see whether that makes a difference, and we can go and compile. Just to have a look here at what we're talking about here. This carousel collection sometimes needs to be altered for the application to compile. Okay, that seems to have done the trick insofar as that we have now grabbed all the dependencies that we need. So let's get on with the real magic, which is going to happen over here. Now, what we've got here is the prompt that I'm going to use to generate the code within Cursor. Now, I think we need to concentrate on this prompt a little bit longer because it really is extremely important that we understand basically how this works, and also that it's formatted correctly and it does what we want. Let's just read through this. Examine the pub.dev dependency at. Now you see we've got an at web. The way that I added that was literally putting an at sign, and it'll drop down and give you a selection, and we want to put in at web, and then we cut and paste into that the pub.dev package. Now this allows Cursor to go and actually read the instructions of installation on there, which is going to do. We give it a second instruction here, which basically says which version of the example do we want it actually to use, because there are several examples. I'm going to go across there and have a look at them in a second. We specifically want it to do the horizontal example and adapt the infinite carousel dart code here. That's the one that the boilerplate that we've created, and to create a Flutterflow custom widget over here. So this is the entire prompt that we're going to kick off with at the moment. Okay, just to be super clear as to where all that information came from, here is the pub.dev link that we gave to the prompt. We can see that we have got an example over here, and within the example there are actually 3 different versions of it, and we specifically want it to do the horizontal version of that. So we've given it an instruction to go and have a look at the example there of specifically the horizontal version of the application. Down here we can see what it's specifically referring to. It's this one over here, the horizontal version of the application, as opposed to this one, which is clearly the vertical. Okay, so now we've done that, all we've left to do is to actually to run that code, that prompt, and to see what happens. Okay, so we hit this little icon here, and you can see we've got the generating the code going on. The first thing it's going to do is it's starting to read all the links that we've given it. Very clever indeed, isn't it? And it's going to run through, read the GitHub, it's going to read the pub.dev, key points in the documentation. It's really doing all the work that we developers used to have to do, I must admit. And there it is, it's carrying on, looking at the references. And it's beginning now to start to construct the actual code itself. Now, isn't that beautiful? Now, once we've got to the end of that, it may ask us a few questions before it finishes. You see it's still going, even though it's written some code here. Typically, it'll come in, it'll look for errors. If it finds an error, it'll try and correct them. Generally speaking, it won't work 100% the first time round, but we just keep accepting the suggestions that it makes and to see how far that we can get. And by the time we get to the end, we accept that particular version of the code, we accept the file, that gets copied into our version of Cursor. Now this will not have been pumped up into Flutterflow as yet, we're going to come to that, but that is the first step of what we need to do here. Now we've run a command here because it asked us to, which is pubcache_repair.cat. I don't think that was the be all and end all of the problem, but we are just literally at this moment in time following the instructions that it's providing us, and it's come down here and it says how can I resolve an error going on over here, and that was the clue that it gave us. It didn't actually fix it, but we'll run through it anyway because this is what I did in real life. So all said and done, when everything is settled down, you can see over here we've got this red underlined over here of the builder. So what I did is I went in and simply asked the question I get this error, the method for builder isn't defined for the type infinite carousel. So I copied and pasted that. In fact, you can left click on that builder over there, and also it will copy that across into chat. How can I resolve this? And then it does a little bit of thinking on that. And finally, it comes up and it basically says, would you like to fix this for me? And the answer is, of course we would. And off it goes and does a fix for us. After a few seconds, we can see that we've got a new version. We accept the new code and we notice that the errors are now completely gone from the custom widget. So what's now? So let's take that entire code and copy it. So I'm just doing a Control A on that, and we're going to go across into Flutterflow, and we're going to find where that, at the moment it's just the boilerplate, and we're going to Control A and Control V that, and we're going to copy that entire widget into the Flutterflow. So that is now an exact replication of what we have in Cursor. Now, unfortunately, you should always expect there to be a lot of red errors when one first does this. We cannot be passed, so let's just, well, we saved it without passing. Let's go and have a look to see what errors we might have created there. That generally won't be too serious. Now that seems to have been fixed, and we're trying to build this and see whether it can. And lo and behold, we have got no errors, so that's fantastic. Okay, at this point, let's start filling out and putting the infinite carousel widget together onto the home page, and we're going to fill out the parameters that we need for that. Now I'm going to use the built-in random generator for a list of images, so we're not going to connect this to Firebase or Firestore as yet. That can be done, but we're actually just going to use local variables to do this. And we're going to actually run into some cause issues in a minute, which is a bit annoying, but I'm going to cover that in a minute on this technique. We're filling out all of these parameters here. We don't actually need to fill them all out because, in fact, some of them were put in as default values, if you notice. But we'll fill out the ones that we want to maybe take control of there. First, the list of images. We can go over here, and there we can see some of the default values that are put in, some of the things that we do need to put in and don't need to put in. It's asking us to put in a height value there. Let's just check that we've got it on the home page. We have, so when that we run that, it's in the right place. And let's give it a spin and see what happens. We are, however, still missing something. We haven't got the callback that is going to tell us that the which image has been selected. So what we need to do is we need to add an action index over here as parameter 10. It is called an action, and we add to that the parameter of the index. Now what we actually need to do is then use the boilerplate code over here, and we are actually going to copy that to the editor over there so that we can pick up this new version here from here down to here and copy that, and we're going to put that into Cursor. We're actually going to come out of this and we are going to discard those changes over here for the time being, discard them because we're going to put it back to normal. But we are now going to go across to Cursor and make that change. I've now cut and pasted just this top half part over here into Cursor, and we're going to ask Cursor then to add in the callback that we need. I've now added this particular prompt, and I'm going to ask it therefore to take care of the callback for us. I'm going to admit that I had already done that earlier on and forgotten to put it in the video, but I have done the processes again here, and you can see it's pointed out there. I see that you've already added it in, but it's just double checked and just put the code in. Now that means that the cursor is looking a little bit different. It's got the future callback has been added over here, and we can see there's also some additional code that's been added there, which is on index changed. We're going to implement that callback into Flutterflow. So we now can copy that back into our Flutterflow project, and that will now allow us to do some logic on the action chains. And I will go across now and show you what I've done. Over on the Infinite Carousel widget, we now have an action flow editor over here. And in that action flow editor, I am going to update a page state, and the page state here is the selected index. And then I am now going to show the snack bar, and the snack bar is going to show what that index is. So before I did that, I needed to add a state variable. And you can see that that is the state variable over here, the selected index. So that now gets updated as a result of this action chain over here and does the snack bar. Now, the only other thing that we therefore need to do is to go across to the image over here and to ensure that that is selecting the app state image, the item at index, and the specific index is going to be the page variable there, the state page state variable of the selected index. And that, as a result of doing that, creates the dynamic widget, so that as we select from the carousel, the larger image reflects the selection that we've made. You can clone this project from my resources page at flutterflowmc.com. So if you want to take a deeper look at that action chain and how it was constructed, clone that and go and take a look. After a little bit of jiggery-pokery on the layout, we can see that we've actually got that kind of functioning, although it's not showing the images. And I know why that is, and that is because we have a cause issue. Cause issues are a result from trying to read images from a different domain than from the one which we are serving from, and it's actually a bit of a Flutterflow issue. The solution to this issue is actually not to use the random images. It does cause problems within Flutterflow. So I've swapped those out actually for application variables that you can see over here. So I have an image list, and in the image list, rather than putting random images, I've put these ones which we can get free from Pixum. I've just put 3 images in there. And the other alteration that I've made is that on the Infinite Carousel widget over here, on the image list, we're now using the app state of the image list there, and that will fix that whole cause issue and circumnavigate it. We can now check to see whether this will run within Flutterflow, but I'm going to show you in a minute. We can also run it within Cursor, which is sometimes preferable. So we will do a test run on that, pause it while it just loads up, and lo and behold, we have a functional custom widget there. Let me just make that a little bit smaller. I think these images are a little bit on the large side, but as you can see, as I run through this, it's infinite insofar as that the last image becomes the first image again, and you can see we've got a selector going on. We've also got this callback going on, which is more of a debugging thing, just to let us know which image is. Now I'm going to make some alterations to that. Notice that this is actually a square, and it's not in the Instagram sort of format that I wanted it. I'm going to make a few other changes, and we're going to do that across in Cursor. I then wanted to ask Cursor to make some changes to that. So please edit the custom widget so that the images are displayed in a 9:16 aspect ratio to the height of the widget and separated horizontally by 5 pixels. And it's generated the code here, and as before, we accept the changes into our project. We've then still got to copy and paste this across to Flutterflow to see that working in action. There's actually a better way of doing the debugging and the development, and which is really much more pure vibe coding, and that is actually to run the code that you've got from Flutterflow directly within Cursor. And I'm going to show you why that is so wonderful. So we're going to run that, and it's going to start a debugging session. You can see down here in the bottom right hand corner we've got that set to Chrome, so we just need to give it a few minutes. This is exactly the same as what Flutterflow would do for us. It's to create a test mode for the project, but there's one major difference which I'm going to show you in a second. After a few moments, it's going to load up our test session. As you can see, it looks exactly the same as it did when it was being run within Flutterflow, and you can see that it's still a bit on the large side here. I can probably change the zoom factor here so that we perhaps can see a bit more of it. But But there we have the custom widget completely functional. But here is where the absolute beauty of it lies. I'm going to move that off to the side for a second, and we're going to do some vibe coding over here. And we're going to see that the custom widget over here will update in real time. So over here I have deliberately introduced an error that I've said that the ratio is 9:16. What I actually want is the ratio 16:9. So I want the ratios to be 9:16, and also the aspect ratio of that image is dependent on this height here. So I've done something which I may not do in real life, but I've actually asked it to ignore the value here and to hardwire that in as 320. So the prompt looks, the carousel image is currently square. Set the default parameters so that the image is a 9:16 ratio, not a 16:9. Ignore the widget height parameter and ensure the height is always 320 pixels. Okay, so bear in mind we've still got this running over here. We lose it every time I click over here, but I'm going to bring it back in a second. So let's send that off. Continue without reversing. Let's do that. Generating over here. Let's put that in there because we are going to see, bingo, look, it's done it. And it's actually altered the localhost here version of it in real time, and there we go, it's actually done a beautiful job. So even though it's appeared over here, we can say, yeah, I like that, it's done what we want, and we can go over here and we can accept that file. You can see that the change it's made is over here, that the final height is now no longer the parameter that is accepted by the widget. It's actually fixed to 320. It's not something that we'd necessarily want to do because we lose control of it in the widget itself, but it was just by sake of argument. So let's just do one more just to see the beauty of the real-time vibe coding within Flutterflow. So we'll put in a request over here, make the spacing between the image 10 pixels instead of the current 5 pixels. Okay, so we will tell it to do that. Go and have a look at the image over here. We can see that it's writing the code, and I don't see much of a difference over there. There we go. That's now 10 pixels. Fantastic. So it took 2 shots of it. I think it looks mildly better. So we can come over here and we can accept the changes. That is now in the code within Cursor. So we take the code, Control A, Control C that, go back to Flutterflow. Find our infinite widget carousel. We now Control Z, Control A, Control Z the new code into that. There we go. We can check that and see that the new edit has been added. We can save that. We still got a bit of red going on here, but the chances are it's simply that the built-in Dart code editor. There we go. It's got rid of all the red there. We can now run that. We seem to have a bit of time left on our session, so let's go and have a look to see whether that is still functional within Flutterflow. Doing a quick instant reload over here, and beautiful, there it is in our correct aspect ratio. And as you can see, we've got our infinite carousel completely 100% working. So that actually concludes the vibe coding of a custom widget. There are obviously many other things we can do in the vibe coding here. We don't necessarily, for instance, have to be creating a custom widget based on a pub.dev dependency. We could, for instance, go into a layout, and I'm going to cover that in my next videos. I'm particularly interested to see whether the cursor can interpret a Figma design and create a Figma design within Flutterflow for us. So watch this space for my next videos, and if you like what you see, then please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help oil the wheels of progress. Thank you.